Hey. I am Fizz Ed Music, and this right here is Urban Politics, where politics lives. Want to try something a little different, coming to you with a mic. Make sure those vocals are extra clear, extra crispy. We're going to get right into it like a car and drive because there's all types of tasty politics to sink our teeth into. So, let me just get right into it. Let's talk about a little government spending. The U.S. just passed a $768 billion budget for defense. That's 30 million more than Trump's defense budget and 24 billion more than what Biden requested. All behind the backdrop of ending the longest war in history. Of course, I'm referring to the Afghanistan war, which went on 20 some years. It's pretty ridiculous. Obviously, Americans don't have the appetite for war. That's why we finally got out of there. Plenty of presidents had tried to get out of there and couldn't do it. Barack Obama couldn't do it. Trump negotiated a horrible deal to do it. And then it actually got done by Biden. So Biden got to be the guy that everybody hates and everybody critiques for getting out of Afghanistan the wrong way. But there was really no right way to do it. It was doomed from the start anyway. So a TI is what a TI is, but he's definitely paid the cost for that. $768 billion. Think about that. We just had a pandemic. We're still in the midst of a pandemic because now, it went down, but now numbers are roaring back up, probably because it's gotten cold again and people are inside and stuff. Dr. Fauci said that was coming. The government didn't want to give people checks, $1,700, $2,000 a month. That was too much. And you had Mitch McConnell and people like him, poo-pooing it and stopping it or whatever. And, some of them got passed or whatever, but they made such a big deal about that. And then it got to the point to where Mitch McConnell said, I'm not passing anymore. We're not doing that anymore. I don't want the American people to have any more ease to their suffering or whatnot. But they just signed on for a $768 billion defense budget. Do we need that much money to defend America? I don't think so. And at the end of the day, who's going to get the bulk of that money? Is it going to be the American people? Who's going to see something from the bulk of this money? Is it going to be the American people? Nah, it's going to be a lot of military contractor. You know what I'm saying? Like Boeing and guys like that. They're going to get a lot of money from this. So, bully for them. But the rest of us just lost $768 billion and we're probably not going to see too much for our money. But that TI is what a TI is. That's government. That is government spending. My thing is, if you want to spend that much on defense, fine, because they know things that I don't know. So I'm sure there's a lot of money that does need to go towards defense. But still, why don't you put some money back and look out for the American people? I mean, that's not asking too much. It's not asking too much for people to be able to get family leave from their jobs. It's not asking too much for us to have roads and bridges that don't crumble apart and kill people while they're trying to commute to work or to a family member's house. So, yeah, that's what's up with that. Anyway, moving right along, let's talk about some numbers. Because, men lie, women lie, but the numbers, ladies and gentlemen, they don't lie. So let's talk about the numbers. And here they go. 43% of welfare recipients are non-Hispanic whites. 23% being non-Hispanic Black Americans. 39.8% of SNAP recipients are white. 25.5% of blacks participate in the SNAP program. As far as Medicare goes, they said it's 40% white, 21% black. So let's unpack some of these numbers. Now, if you watch like Fox News or ONN or some of these other right-wing conservative outlets, they'll go on and on about immigrants and people of color and minorities sucking the system dry by taking this social service and this SNAP program. The SNAP program is food stamps. Back in the day, we used to call them yammies. So if you get food stamps, you're on the food stamps, that program is the SNAP program. So that's what they're talking about with that. Right here, you see that 25.5% of blacks participate in that program, which is less than the, 43% of welfare recipients who are non-Hispanic whites. That's just white people. That's just white people who are, I guess they're claiming, who aren't mixed with any Hispanic or Spanish, ethnicity. But my point being is, there's more white people in America, ergo it have to be more of them who are taking advantage or taking part in these social services. So it wouldn't even make sense to sit there and talk about, oh yeah, it is, you know what I'm saying, there's all these people of color and immigrants and minorities who are sucking the system dry and living large on this social service. Some of these tropes that got created by people who are very smart political athletes, like Ronald Reagan. Now think about it, Ronald Reagan. He was an actor by trade, and then he became president. But he was really good at slogans. He was really good at painting a picture for his constituents, and a picture that he painted was the welfare queen. And that's a trope that he's used, forever. He would talk about these welfare moms who were getting all this money from the government, and then they go to the store and they buy lobster and steak, and you work a 40-hour week and can't afford to eat any of that, and they're living so high on the hog and sucking social services. Yeah, there's still plenty of people who believe that garbage. But if you do the walking on, the internet, Google's your friend, bruh. And if you Google and get the real numbers, you'll see that obviously it isn't people of color sucking the system dry. There's not enough of us in America to do that. So that's what we got to do here. We got to look at the numbers. Another program, they talk about being insolvent, or I've heard, conservatives say that it'll be going by 2050, is Medicare and Medicaid. We're right here, Medicare. Only 21% black, and that makes sense. There are less people of color, less black people in America, so it's going to be less of them who are using this program. So there you go. So that is just the truth of the numbers. Like I said, men lie, women lie, but the numbers, ladies and gentlemen, they do not lie. So when you hear some of these racist tropes, or when you hear this crap about how people want to ride through the hood, and some of them brothers you see sitting on the corner or sitting on their porch with a 40 ounce, that's all they do is sell dope and drink 40s and suck off the system and use food stamps. There's some of that going on, but the bulk of people who are taking part of the SNAP program happen to be non-Hispanic whites. That TI is what a TI is. Moving right along, let's talk about a bill that I think is a horrible idea, but it's going down right here in the great state of OH and a dime where I live, Ohio, and they're allowing teachers to carry weapons in classrooms. It advanced in the Ohio Senate. The Ohio State House. The House Bill 99 will allow teachers to carry weapons in classrooms. Horrible idea. In 2016, a 14-year-old student opened fire at a junior high school in Middletown, Ohio, injuring 4 people. And that's horrible, but I guess they're saying that's what brought on some of this legislation, right? So in response, the district approved a policy that allowed employees to voluntarily carry concealed firearms in the building if they have a carry concealed permit and undergo active shooter training. I think this is a horrible idea. On the right, a lot of times you'll hear people say that on Fox News, and people who are conservatives, they say the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So I guess they think the best thing for our kids is crossfire. I don't agree with that. I think there's way too much access to guns in this country. I don't know what you do about it. It's quite the conundrum. It's quite the problem, because like I've always talked about on this show, I have conversations about guns with friends of mine, and it's interesting about how I can have a conversation about guns with friends of mine, in the hood in Livingston and on Oakwood and stuff like that, but I get some of the same rhetoric that I would get from people I know in Upper Arlington and Hilliard when it comes to guns. This country has a love affair with the gun. I got a song where I Under the Gun, where I talk about that. You know what I'm saying? Actually, it's called the Second Amendment. But in the hood, that's what I said. It's like the gun is the king and there's nobody equal. There's more guns in America than there are people. You better get ready to run, son, because everybody's living under the gun. And that's this country. We are. Look at Chicago. The gun violence. It's running rampant. We just had a school shooting in Michigan. 4 children died. Congress, nothing. What do you hear from Congress? Crickets. Inaction. Why? Because they are paid off well from the NRA, the National Rifle Association. I tell you what, man, them guys got plenty of bread from selling plenty of guns. And what do they do with that bread? They buy our congressmen and women, and they make sure that there is absolutely no movement on gun legislation, no matter how many kids die, no matter how many people die in this country. And it's a real problem. I mean, that's a statistic reality. There are more guns in America than there are people. What's up with that? You know, this country just has a love affair with the gun that seems to be never ending. And it's sad to see. And I understand, you know, some people grew up with guns. Some people love guns. Some people are avid hunters and such. I get it. I get it. And gun safety is a thing. But whenever people are talking about gun safety, or they're like, you know, even I had reported probably maybe it was last show or show before last on this show about the Ahmaud Arbery trial, and how the new Black Panther Party was outside the trial, and they were marching, and they had their guns with them, and they let it be known that what they were about is education, gun education for the Black community, and getting, like, you know, workshops set up in Black communities that teach Black people safe ways to operate and handle firearms and such like that. I agree with that. Lord knows we have the complexion that sometimes needs protection. So there's that. You know what I'm saying? So I get that piece. But at the same time, I hate reading and hearing about all the shootings, the school shootings, you know, young people just in the street, getting a hold of these guns, getting caught up in the heat of the moment and doing something that they can't change. You know, and when you take a life, you can't bring that back. When you wound people or you hurt people, you can't take that back. So we really got to get a handle on this gun thing, right? But it's something with this country. There's a love affair of the gun in America. Because like I said, when I talk to people from different backgrounds, I'm still having the same conversation. Well, we should be able to keep our guns, and we should have the same guns that the government got. You don't have the same guns that the government got, so you can hang that up. They're always going to have heavier metal than you or I, my friend. The government's got more money. I guess corporate America really would have all the guns, right? Because they got all the money. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about something else. I want to talk about the UN. Now, some people probably don't even know what the UN is. The UN is the United Nations. We had a president, his name was Woodrow Wilson. He had these things called the 14 points, and it was just 14 good ideas that he had, right? And he bounced them off of the other government people, and they said, hey, all those ideas suck, except for that one idea that you had about a United Nations. That's a good idea. All the nations should get together and probably, you know, come up with rules of war and stuff like that in ways that nation states should conduct themselves. Ergo, the UN. That's what we got, right? So let's talk about the UN. The UN calls for U.S. and others to end impunity for police violence against Black people. The High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, spoke about the importance of seeking punishment for human rights violations by police and holding institutions accountable. Also, to stop denying and start dismantling racism. She encouraged reparations, saying to make amends for centuries of violence and discrimination. They collected information on more than 190 cases, mostly in the U.S., where people died in police custody around the world. And law enforcement are rarely held accountable, due in part to deficient investigations and a lack of independent and robust oversight because of the perception of guilt against people of African descent. They called for reparations, not only through financial compensation, but they said it also should include formal acknowledgement, apologies, truth-telling, etc., things of that nature. They commissioned this report last year following the George Floyd murder. Wow, that's something right there. Now, I've went on record as saying that the George Floyd hangover is over. You see a lot of people on Facebook talking about how they were tired of seeing Black Lives Matter stuff and in their news feeds or whatnot. And then a lot of these companies who said that they stood in solidarity with Black Lives Matter and all that good stuff, they've thrown that by the wayside. Like, we're done with that. Not the order of the day to care about people of color anymore. So we're moving on. Plenty of that going on. You know, I've told people, I went on record in my show as saying, unfortunately, when people look like I look, we're not allowed to just be sick of talking about racism, be sick of talking about police violence, because we live it. It affects us every second of every day. Ergo, we gonna keep talking about it. We have to keep talking about it. But for those of you who are sick of hearing about it, think about how sick we are of living with it. Anyway, I digress. But here it is, the UN backing that up. For you always, and I've had arguments ad nauseum with some of my conservative friends how, oh, the police aren't targeting black people, and in this situation such and such should have just did what they asked, or in this way situation the law is what it is and they broke the law in this manner or this fashion, whatever. But we all know what's up with that. We all know that people of color have been targeted by the police. They continue to be targeted by the police, and it's a problem. And if you don't believe it, the UN they did the work for you. 190 cases. So they went out throughout the world, found 190 cases of instances where people were in police custody. That means the police got them and they were alive, and then died while in the company or in the custody of the police. And then the police weren't even held accountable. And they said of 190 cases of this going on around the world, most of them were right here in the great US of A. That's a problem. That's a problem. But that's what happens, they said, a lot of times with these UN conferences. America will go in there and they'll start talking stuff about, China having human rights violations because of the way that they treat the Uyghurs. And if you don't know anything about that, Google that and check that out. But, they got a lot of human rights violations and stuff. And a lot of, nation states around the world do. But they're like, America, you can shut your mouth coming at us. Why is it that you got police, killing people of color like 40 going north over there, and then you don't even hold these guys accountable? Nobody even goes to jail, so for some of the loss of life, just because this person was black. And like they said here, there's that presumed guilt, that presumption of guilt. When your skin is dark, they just presume you to be guilty. And a lot of people have said that. Well, here in America, you're innocent until proven guilty. But then they say when you're black, you're guilty until proven innocent. Unfortunately, that's been the way around here for a long time, and it doesn't seem to have changed. But guess what? For those who think that people who look like me have just been whistling Dixie, now we got the UN to back it up. Like I said, they crunched the numbers for you. They did the homework. They did the work and brought it to you right there. There is a problem with people of color, being harassed and killed by the police here in America, here in the USA. So they even brought it up. So that lets you know the international community is paying attention. Obviously, like America has, the George Floyd hangover is over here in America. It hasn't ended in the rest of the world. I'm glad to see that the rest of the world is like, hold up. Them people of color in America, they need some help, and we're not done being concerned about it, because that's regot. DAMN, ridiculous. It's a family show. I don't want to curse, but you know what's up with that. Anyway, moving on. I'm almost done, but before I get out of here, I would be remiss if I don't bring these couple of things up. Now, here we are getting to the end of the year, getting to Christmas. That's why I'm dressed like a candy cane, because it's very festive. I love Christmas. Why do I love Christmas? Christmas is the one time a year when people pretend to care about each other. They pretend to care about each other, because people are homeless all year long, right? But then at Christmas, people are talking about the homeless, talking about feeding people who aren't getting fed. That's a great thing. That's an important thing. But it's a shame that it only tends to happen, or I won't say it only tends to happen around this time of year, but it gets revved up around this time of year. And I'd like to see people have the same fervor for people in need that they have around Christmas throughout the whole year. But guess what? If they're only going to have it for 2, maybe 3 weeks a year around this end of December, beginning of January, I'll take it, because it's better than nothing. If we at least get 2.5 weeks of people pretending to care about each other, it's better than a whole year of people not caring about each other, which is what you could get if you didn't have that. So with that said, let me leave you with some more disheartening numbers. This year, 2021, there's been 144 school shootings, 86 injuries, and then 28 deaths. So we've had 144 school shootings, 68 injuries, and 28 deaths coming from these school shootings. Like I've said, still no action from Congress. Still all this inaction from Congress. Why? They're being paid well by the gun lobbyists. They're being paid well by the NRA. Something needs to happen with this. It's going to be up to us, you and me, our communities around America, to come together and find out, why are these kids bringing guns to school? Why is this the latest sensation that seems to be sweeping the nation? Gun violence, gun shootings, school shootings. What's up with that? We just had one here in Michigan. I want to say 4 kids died. Something's going on. So parents, Pay attention to your children. Know about the TikTok dances that they're interested in. Know about what they're doing on Facebook. Know about what they're doing on Instagram. Be a part of your children's lives, because that's what it is, man. A lot of these kids just don't have any supervision, and that's what they need, because this is a problem here. And obviously, the only people who are going to do anything about it, and the only action that's going to be done on this, is going to have to be from regular people like you and I. It's going to have to be from regular communities, because Congress ain't doing nothing. Okay, their lines are being their pockets are being lined with cash from the NRA, and that's it. They're done. They ain't even gonna talk about guns. If you notice, ain't nobody said nothing about that shooting in Michigan. Maybe something's going on, recently, but whatever. There's been a lot of silence from these guys and gals sitting up there on Capitol Hill, and they get paid $175,000 a year from you and I, and they make millions on the side, but that's another story. But they make a whole lot of money. One of them ought to have some cojones, ought to grow a backbone, speak truth to power, and let the NRA know, hey, things are gonna change around here. We got to do something different. Because that's what it is. We're a nation that's killing ourselves. That's what I said in that rhyme that I got, the Second Amendment. This is a nation that's killing itself. That's what we need. Comprehensive gun reform, bipartisan legislation. The only thing that can help a dying nation that's killing itself. Quote, Phys Ed Music. Anyway, moving on. 42 million Americans going hungry in America, and that's 1 in 8 people. So think about that. If you know 9 people, or if you know 8 people, 1 in 8 people going hungry. So that 8th person is going hungry. They are starving tonight. They are in need of a meal right here in America. So that's something to also think about this holiday season. So anything you can give it. If you got some extra money you can give it. If you got some canned goods you can give it. If you have some time to help out, anywhere you can, at your local daycare, at your local food pantry, whatever, do it. Because we have people who are missing meals in one of the most, if not the richest country in the world, America. If it's not one of the richest countries in the world, it might be the richest country in the world, and we still have people who are going hungry. And then somebody brought it up to me how they showed how they're doing commercials in Germany for poor and hungry kids here in America. I don't know what to say about that. I didn't know things were that bad, but I guess I kind of did know things were that bad, because I've been reporting on hunger for a minute now. So that needs to change. That's sad. But this holiday season, be mindful of that. 1 in 8 people. So like I said, if you know 8 people, that 8th person could be starving tonight. They might not have a meal. Check in on your friends and your loved ones, and make sure that they're getting a meal. Not only in the holiday season, because hunger is year round, right? But at least here in the holiday season, people have that warmth in their heart, and they try to call themselves looking out for each other. So that is what it is. That is my time. This right here is Urban Politics. I hope you like the mic. Hopefully the sound came in better. If it didn't, oh well, I might just go back to the other way and just do it without the mic. Forget that. I love the mic. I've always been a fan of the mic. I'm an MC by trade, so of course I like the mic. This is my time. Urban Politics, where politics lives. And as always, I'll see you around like a donut.